Welcome to today's tutorial where we are going to discuss the differences in using nested if functions in your formula bar and using the ifs function on its own to calculate the same results. So I know that if you're using nested ifs, it is not wrong what you're doing. If you know how these nested ifs work, it is a brilliant way to use Excel. But if you are testing logical tests against one another, the ifs function is actually, in my opinion, a bit more simplistic to use, but we'll get to that exactly how each of these methods work. And at the end of the day, it results in the same result. So you can tell me in the comment section which of these methods you actually prefer and even comment why you prefer to use these. So in today's example, we are simply going to discuss the bonus structure that each of these individual persons are going to receive. So as you guys can see, we have a bunch of sales over a couple of weeks, and we have this amounting to a total. And for this, our logical test today that we're going to use, we are going to determine if the totals are larger than these bonus criteria that we have done at the bottom here. And if it is actually larger than this amount, you will receive this bonus. So it's quite simple how the examples is structured, but this is actually just a simple example to show you exactly how this works. So let's jump in right into the nested ifs and show you exactly how this works. So in my cell where I want to calculate this person's bonus structure, I am simply going to type in the equal sign and I'm going to type in the if function. I'm going to put a bracket, and as you can see, we have our first logical test that we need to do. So as I've already explained, we want to test if this person's total amount of sales is larger than our criteria that you can see in the bottom section here. So I'm referencing back to my total, and I am going to determine if this is larger than 6,000. And if it is, if the value is true, this person will receive a $500 bonus. So once we have typed out our logical test and with a comma point, we went into our value if this is true. So if I enter a comma point again, you can see the next section is what will our value be if this is false. And because we have more than two criteria here, we are simply going to add another if statement in this section to test our next logical test. So the next test would be referencing back to that cell, determining if this is actually in fact larger than 4,500, and if it is with a comma point, then once again in the value if true section of our formula, you can simply add your bonus that this person will receive. And then once again, if you're finished with this section, and a comma point, and then we are entering our false section of this if statement as well. So then again, we are entering another if statement. So as you guys can see, as we are working our way through this, this is nested ifs in a nested if statement. So we've got a bunch of if statements to test our logical tests. So once again, in our third section, we are going to test if this is larger than 3,000. If it is, you will receive $200 for this. And once again, in our value if false section, we are going to enter another if statement and enter our last logical test in this section. So now you guys can see how this is starting to form. And this is the principles of nested if functions. So you use a bunch of if statements in order to test multiple logical tests. And once you have completed this section, we can simply then just start closing our brackets. And as we go along, you can see where we are ending up with our closed brackets. So all of this forms part of our nested if statement, and this is how you would use nested ifs if you want to calculate this bonus structure automatically. So once you hit enter, you can see where this works, and if I autofill this, we can see the results of the bonus. We can actually add a currency to these numbers, but you get what I mean. So this is how the nested ifs would work. If we go back in our formula bar, you can actually just see we have a bunch of if statements testing our logical tests. And this is brilliant if you know how this works, but I can tell you from my own experience, the ifs function is just a simpler way in order to do this. So let's jump right in to our ifs function. So now we've got exactly the same example. The only difference is going to be we are not going to use nested ifs to calculate our bonus structure. We are going to use the ifs function in order to do this. So in our bonus section over here, we are simply going to type out the equal sign, and then we are going to type the ifs function, and we are going to enter a bracket. So as you can see, immediately we need our logical test number one, and this is exactly the same as it would have been. We are going to test our total against our bonus criteria. So if this value is larger than 6,000 with a comma point, that is our logical test. With a comma point, we are moving to our true section. So if this is in fact true, what is our value going to be? So that would be our $500 bonus in that section. And then when I enter a comma point, you can see that we immediately move to our logical test number two. So there is no logical test number one, value if true, and a value if false. So when you're using a normal if statement, you will receive a input of value if false, and that's where we used nested ifs. But in the if statement, we immediately move to our logical test number two. So once again, referencing to this section, and now I'm simply going to type out all of our data that we want to test. So there we have it. We have our logical test number two complete, and we have our value if true. And once again, if I enter a comma point, we can see we move to our logical test number three. And this is exactly the same. It's pretty repetitive from here, but we are then just filling in all of our information as we move on through our logical tests and the value if our logical test number two or three is true. So as I've already said, there is no false in this section. You simply just hammer away and go through all of these sections and fill in all of your information. And once we are done with our ifs statement, we can simply close our bracket. We only have one bracket to close, and now you can see everything is compressed into one formula. And this is quite simple. When you enter your if statement, you can see your logical tests, you can see your values. If the first test is true, the second test, and the value if our second test is true. So this is quite simple. The ifs function is a simple way that you can increase your work speed in Microsoft Excel. And let's just press enter and then just autofill this section. And you guys can see this results in exactly the same result. But the time it takes to work through nested ifs is actually a bit more complicated. You need to keep your mind sharp when working with nested ifs, because if you enter something in the wrong position or section of your formula, you will get an error. With the ifs function, it's quite easy, it's quite simple. You just enter your data, your logical tests, and your return values, and that is it. And this is as simple as that. And this is why I would recommend using the if statement to increase your Excel speed when you are working in Excel. But thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the comparison between the two. As we've already said, please leave a comment down below. Which of these methods do you actually prefer? And have you learned anything new today? If you have, please remember to hit the like button down below and subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss any of our new content. And also, please share this video far and wide to everybody that you think might enjoy this so that we can get people informed on how to work in Microsoft Excel. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, cheers.